past year. And now, let's go live to the main hall to welcome the platform party.
Please stand for the arrival of the platform party.
Very good morning. Please be seated. Before I ask the Rev to open our speech day in prayer, I'd like us all to give a very, very warm welcome to Mrs. Rainbow and our upper six leavers. Good morning. Let us pray. Lord, in the Bible you call us to live abundant lives. Today we come together to celebrate all that happens in the life of this school, all the lessons that have been learnt, all the adventures and activities that we've been involved in, all the music, sport, drama, hikes and excursions that have been enjoyed. We are here to recognize all that every pupil has achieved in the course of the last year, and those who have excelled in different things. We have also come together to give thanks for all those who have made all these things possible. Our parents who've watched over us, fed and clothed us, and enabled us to come to the school. Our teachers who have taught us with patience and skill so that we have grown in knowledge and wisdom. Those who have not given up on us and seen the potential in us. The support staff with their varied roles who enable the school to function effectively, whether it be handling the finances, providing meals, or maintaining the facilities and grounds we enjoy. Our friends who have stood with us in the good times and difficult times. Lord, for your presence, recognized and often not recognized, undergirding all we do with your love, we give you thanks. We ask your blessing on these speech day proceedings and invite you to be our unseen guest, adding your blessing to this occasion. In Jesus' name we pray. Amen.
Thank you, Orbin. Always a lovely contemplative start to the day. Welcome, distinguished guests, friends, students, parents, grandparents, alumni, and particularly Professor Sharon Cox, past pupil and this morning's guest speaker. Look forward to really hearing what she has got to say. So a very warm welcome to all of you. And warm it always is in this building. The temperature raised as you came across the threshold. It was quite nice and cool out there. So anybody wants to take their jacket off, please do feel free. So, pause a moment while that, hopefully it stops there. Yeah. Excellent. Well, I love speech days. They're always a really sort of upbeat and vibrant occasion, and this week is sort of a bit of a speech day week, really. My third one, and enjoy all of them. It's a really lovely point where the whole school family gets together. But actually, this term, I've been lucky enough to spend quite a bit of time here at Truro School. I came and did a bit of a talk with Professor Dave Hoskin here to the lower six about careers. We had the wonderful ball last week. If anybody was here, that was absolutely amazing. The old sports hall looked like a state-of-the-art marquee and was absolutely wonderful. I came on Wednesday for the private view of the amazing summer show in the Heseltine. I hope you'll find a few minutes, if you haven't seen that already, to go afterwards. As well as governing body meetings, I'm also on the board of the Truro School Foundation, which is raising money to enable us to meet and exceed our charitable objectives around bursaries. So one way or another, a lot to do, and it's been a joy to be here, because when you're here frequently like that at different times of day and with different groups, you sort of feel the passion and the knowledge of teachers and the co-curricular staff. And that's being enhanced all the time. We've got a new director of sport coming in the autumn. We're striving to get the best people in all respects all the time. And I think Speech Day is one of the few occasions when the whole school family comes together. So an opportunity for me to let parents particularly know how the school looks from a governance perspective. And I believe there's nowhere better for a holistic approach to young people's progress and success, underpinned by great teachers, attentive support staff, Christian values, and forward-looking approach, a real 21st century Cornwall forward-looking approach. Alongside this great teaching and all of the activities which you know they've got a chance to do here, creative, cultural, sporting, there's also, we hear a lot these days about teenage mental health. And it seems to me that we're in a bit of a transitional phase of adapting to social media at the same time as we are putting young people under unrelenting pressure from exams, other external forces, and of course with media now they're subject to all the bad news in the world every day at their fingertips. And I think it's worth remembering that when new tech comes along, it's very often disruptive until we learn to live with it. And Andrew and I were talking, Andrew Gordon-Brown and I were talking about what happened at the start of the Industrial Revolution when children were sent up chimneys and into factories until we, the world, learnt how to treat this new method of doing things. And in this fast-changing world, I believe there's no better place for a teenager to be looked after pastorally than here at Truro School. So we're all the time, everybody here, staff and governors and parents, striving to balance academic achievement with stretching young people in healthy and satisfying pursuits in a massive range of co-curricular and Wednesday afternoon activities, at the same time as Emma Ellison and her team offer amazing pastoral support. Now, I haven't been in front of the whole school family like this since both prep and senior schools were awarded excellence, that's the highest standard available, in their respective independent school inspectorate inspections last autumn. Teaching staff were rightly thrilled and proud, and so were the governors. It was an amazing achievement. And in fact, the inspection couldn't have happened at a worse week. It was my mother's funeral, and Andrew had to rush off to South Africa. So the team here, without the headmaster, did a really fantastic job in displaying Truro School at its very best. So thank you to everybody for that, and many congratulations to all who helped to achieve that excellence in standard. Now, of course, nobody can ever relax. We must always be vigilant to our teaching quality and the pastoral side of young people's education and nurturing. And as I said, I can assure you that Emma Ellison and her team are the best trained, constantly updating their skills and passionate about the people they look after here at school. And you'll also be relieved to know that the governors this week had our safeguarding training, so we're completely up to speed now with the ways that governments have to look after safeguarding. Now, I've really enjoyed my year this year as chair. As well as all the engagements I've mentioned, I have a fortnightly meeting with Andrew Gordon-Brown, and I'm constantly impressed with his never-ending desire for improvement across every aspect of school life. It's incredible how hard, as I say, when I come at different times of day and evening, it's incredible how hard and how passionately everybody here works to achieve the school's plan and to give our young people the very best of what 21st century Cornwall has to offer. And I think what 21st century Cornwall has to offer is a lot. We've got some amazing businesses, we've got some amazing entrepreneurs, sustainable energy, becoming one of the leading parts of the world on that. And this is the world that you guys will be leading and entering, I hope. So, you know, the staff and support staff and teachers here at Truro School deserve a quick round of applause now, I think. And thank you to parents and grandparents and to governors for all your unpaid hard work as well. That's a very essential part of it. And just to say a personal thank you from me to two people who don't fit into any of those categories and therefore don't get much recognition. Clerk to the Governors, Rachel Bayliss, who used to be the bursar here, who does so much to help me and keep the mechanism of governance both knowledgeable and on track. Thank you, Rachel. I wouldn't be able to do it without you. There is so much that you need to know as a governor these days, and Rachel somehow keeps abreast of all of it. So thank you very much indeed. And of course, Sarah, my wife Sarah, who has to put up with me doing school governor homework when she'd prefer me to be cooking, cleaning, gardening, scrubbing the floor, etc. So thank you, Sarah. So I think in a moment we can all give each other a big thank you. Well done to all students, whether you've had public or school exams this year. And if you've had exams where you're not getting the results till August, don't let that spoil your summer, for goodness sake. What's done is done now. So may I wish you all a relaxing summer with not too much social media, but plenty of socialising. Well done, everybody. Thank you for your attention to my few minutes warm-up act. Dr. Sharon Cox, Professor of Epidemiology and Nutrition at Nagasaki University. She's an international thought leader on health matters and a former pupil, is going to absolutely wow you. You've got a wonderful morning ahead of you. Thank you very much indeed.
Honoured guests, governors, ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls, good morning and a very warm welcome. And of course, a rousing welcome, particularly to our upper sixth leavers. And if you're watching Speech Day this morning from other parts of the world, connecting via our live streaming event, you're very welcome too. So, hi, Mum. What a busy and successful year it's been. And it's my privilege now to give you a bit of a snapshot of some of the highlights of the last year. And so forgive me if I wax lyrical for a few minutes about how good our wonderful boys and girls are. I think the snapshot I offer is from someone who's fully immersed in Truro School life, but both as a headmaster and also as the dad of children at the school. And I think that gives me somewhat of a unique perspective. On the one hand, objective, and on the one hand, deeply personal. Speech Day is partly a day to congratulate the students of Truro School who have achieved amazing things, our prize winners. But actually, if you look under the bonnet of Truro School, what strikes me is not that Truro School's a school of superstars, although we have many outstanding boys and girls, but it's that it's a school of achieving individuals who are embraced and accepted for who they are whether they win a prize or not. So if you're winning a prize today, congratulations. And if you're not, well done nonetheless on all the things that you've achieved. It's always nice to start the year with a spring in your step, and we did. Our students achieved really impressive exam results, both at A-level and GCSE. Well, what do I mean by impressive? Well, for some, it was A-star grades and being catapulted into the world's most prestigious universities, right into the realms of academia. For others, there were C and D grades that surpassed all expectations and were a real triumph. The results in raw terms were impressive. By that I mean the number of A-stars, A's, and B's. But given the breadth of the intake at Truro School, we're really proud of our value-added results as well. And that means how our pupils achieve relative to other students of similar ability nationally. At A-level, we achieved top 10% value-added results in the country for the year. But it's not a one-off, actually. Our rolling average for the last 3 years is a top 10% value-added. Which is terrific. Mr. Watley, the head of our economics department, achieved the accolade of top-scoring economics department in the country by value added, which is a first for Truro School. Mr. Watley, I'm afraid, quite literally, the only way is down. But don't worry, we won't expect that every year. Perhaps actually more importantly was our university entrance picture. Amazingly, 80% of the students who applied through UCAS got into their first choice university, and almost all of the rest were placed into their insurance choice. This whole picture comes together as a team effort. Boys and girls who are happy and are keen to learn, and our excellent teachers who inspire them on to great things, tracking and guiding them to ensure that no one slips through the net. In truth, I think academic achievement and the professional development of teachers are two sides of the same coin. And over the last few years, we've run an in-house developed leadership development program for our staff, both teaching and support. And this has been amazingly successful in energizing our whole teaching and learning agenda, and we're going to be building on this in the coming year. Then in September, sadly, I was called to South Africa rather sooner than I'd hoped. And I was blessed to see my dear dad before he passed away. And if proof were needed that the good Lord has a sense of humor, while I was away, the Independent Schools Inspectorate rocked up. And they announced they were going to be with us for a full educational quality and compliance inspection. I have to admit to feeling a kind of momentary shock when Kath, who is my most wonderful PA, broke the news to me over the phone when I was in Johannesburg. It was so important to get the tone right for those inspections, and I was keen to be there, and I felt absolutely helpless. I must say that I also had a deep sense of confidence in my senior leadership team and in our staff generally, that in the spirit of esse quam videri, the inspectors would come to Truro School and they would see us as a community, just as we are. And they did. I must say I felt a touch of pressure, because the prep school, literally a month or two before, had just achieved the most stunning inspection result, and I wasn't all that keen to let the side down. Anyway, the rest is history. I got back to school a week later after attending my dad's funeral. The inspectors had come and gone, and they'd given us the highest ratings possible. These independent judgments were very explicit targets that we put into our strategic plan when we launched that 4 years ago. And they've been a huge effort from what I would say is amazingly dedicated staff. And also the attitude of our pupils to their work, which is really commendable. And I think you all deserve a really big pat on the back, so thank you. As many parents will know, this year our pupils came up with their own student charter. And my thanks to all of you, boys and girls, for completing the survey and working in your tutor groups to develop this charter, which is your words to illustrate the sort of school that you want to be at. We asked all of the students to answer 4 questions. The first of which was this: we want our whole school community to feel happy and secure. How do you like to be treated by others in school? We evaluated the over 500 replies we had from the boys and girls, and we shared those results with them. And then they came up with the first charter statement, which is, I will respect others, and I'll treat them as I would like to be treated myself, with kindness and equality. So what was my favorite quote, therefore, from the ISI report? Well, it was this. Pupils feel that the school is exemplified by a culture of kindness and respect for each other. I can't claim we're perfect, far from it. But this means that when there are instances of unkindness or disrespect, it really jars against a prevailing culture. And nurturing this is really super important from my point of view. And one of the ways we do this is we place quite a strong emphasis on restorative justice, taking the time, and it does take time, to bring people together, to walk in each other's shoes. And we've got staff trained in this form of counselling, and increasingly our sixth form prefects are involved in that. And I'm delighted that next year one of our senior prefects has asked to work with Mr. Hooper on the restorative justice programme. In the words of Connie Schneider, who, if some of you will remember, was our guest speaker back in 2014, don't have sympathy, have empathy. And this is a quality that you will draw on for the rest of your lives. At Truro School, the excellent academic achievement that goes on is inseparable from our commitment to an education of real breadth. Breadth in terms of a rich and diverse range of opportunities outside the classroom. I want to talk a bit about that now. The breadth of sporting opportunity continues to be terrific, and it's been a really busy year. The number of girls advancing to the netball regional finals is at record levels. Badminton has exploded from being a popular niche to a dominant force with huge participation and great glory at both regional and national finals. Our fences remain dominant. Tennis and squash have taken off. The number of boys involved in rugby and football continues to impress. Our under 12, under 13 and under 14 boys are doing great things at the moment in the county cricket championships. And in fact, last night I was watching the old boys take on the current first 11. News came through that in a nail-biting finale, our under 12 boys have been crowned county cricket champions. Well done, boys. Despite these successes, there remains much that we want to do. As you know, we conducted a full review of Truro School sport over the year. I'm really pleased to announce this term we've appointed Dan Sanderson as our new Director of Sport. Dan comes from a professional sporting background, and he's going to work closely with Sonia Newton and our very experienced games department. Sonia steps down after a year as Acting Director of Sport, with my sincere thanks for moving things forward this year. Exercise and fitness are fundamental aspects of mental health and well-being, and one of Dan's first priorities is to ensure that this is going to be integral to every student's experience. Dan's here today, so do say hello. He described himself to me at interview as a big lump, so you can't miss him. Mr. Hooper's put together an amazing sporting and cultural tour to South Africa next summer. We've invited all students in the 4th, 5th and lower 6th years who play girls netball or hockey or boys football and rugby. And for the first time, in fact, we've invited girls to join us from Truro High School. All I can say, having read the itinerary and having been to most of those places in South Africa myself, this is no ordinary sports tour. It's an opportunity for an experience that will be life-changing. So if you're on the fence and not sure whether to commit or not, in the immortal words of the Nike ad, just do it. There are going to be creative ways we can help with the fundraising over the coming year. It's just too special an opportunity to turn down. The breadth and depth of music making at Truro School continues to astound. It seems to me that our boys and girls just keep raising the bar in terms of what they aspire to achieve. And this is quite well illustrated if we cast our minds back to the weekend of the 10th of March. On the one side of town, our chamber orchestra and chamber choir had teamed up with the Truro Choral Society and the Truro Symphony Orchestra for the most wonderful evening of Mozart. There were many highlights, including the fact that the soprano soloist in the Requiem was none other than Bethany Williams, one of last year's Upper Sixth Leavers. But other highlights, the Queen of the Night aria from Catherine Gregory, as one of many amazing school soloists, was just terrific. And Catherine, I hope you'll do that again for us before you leave at some point. The flute concerto, played by Katie Shaw, one of this year's Upper Six Leavers, was certainly deserving of the standing ovation that it achieved from the packed cathedral audience. Now, meanwhile, on the other side of town, the Duchy Ballet were performing the Nutcracker at Hall for Cornwall. And so which professional musicians did they invite to accompany the show? Well, they weren't professional, they were the Truro School Jazz Band. And they did a magnificent job. So whether you've just embarked on your grade 1 piano journey, or your grade 8 oboe, or you simply play for the enjoyment of it, please keep it up. Moving on to drama, this year we've been blessed to witness dramatic productions of the highest quality. Innovative use of technology has always been a feature of our drama department. And in recent years, this has been no better illustrated than the production of The Snow Queen back in the autumn term. The amazing set design and clever use of video projection added enormously to the spellbinding acting that we've come so used to enjoying. As with music, the breadth and depth of our acting talent is really remarkable. The raw, kind of visceral intensity of the acting in the production of The Women of Troy was powerful, kind of shocking, mesmerizing. And then just last week, we were treated to this year's junior play, Gulliver's Travels, with, as ever, a large cast of thespians full of promise. And if you want to catch a glimpse, I'm going to repeat what Kim Conchi's already said, but if you want to catch a glimpse of the health of the creative arts at Truro School, that you simply must visit the Heseltine Gallery either today or over the rest of the summer. I think the exhibition is live until the end of September. It's unbelievable. And while I get messages that some schools struggle to raise teams for 10 tours, our boys and girls are competing for teams, for one of the many teams that we put out onto the moor. It's great fun, it's the best of teamwork, and it's an opportunity that our pupils get to see the beauty of Cornwall's moorlands and coastal paths. Also, well done to all of those who've shown sustained commitment and achieved their bronze awards, bronze, silver, or gold. I was sorry not to be able to join the gold award recipients this year at Buckingham Palace to pick up their awards. I want to particularly commend the voluntary service component, which I think is a great thing in answering our desire to develop young men and women who are transforming society for the better. I'm going to have a sip of water. This year, under the chairmanship of Guy Dodd, who I see sitting before me, and the direction of Jane Grigg and the management of Nikki Berridge, we launched the Truro School Foundation. And then hot on the heels of this, our bursary appeal. The foundation exists ultimately as an avenue for people who are interested in the long-term development of Truro School to support us financially and in other ways. Each year, my governors give me a pot of money so I can offer scholarships and means-tested awards to talented boys and girls who will enrich the life of our school, but whose parents otherwise aren't able to afford the fees. And sadly, each year there are more calls on this pot that I'm able to satisfy. So the foundation is doing great work to grow this pot. I'm really thrilled with the progress that they're making. In fact, we had one very generous donation from a former pupil who phoned Mrs. Grigg up and offered to give us £200,000 as a one-off donation to our scholarship fund. You can imagine Mrs. Grigg's amazement when she took the call. We're also, though, hugely grateful to the many people who've set up monthly donations via direct debit, and we've had several legacies in people's wills as well. I can't tell you what a difference that generosity makes to the boys and girls at Truro School. Our aim is to have raised funds to support 20 bursaries by 2020, and we're well on our way. Looking to the future, it's time to refresh our strategic plan. It's a really gratifying experience, actually, to read through the school's 2014 to 2020 plan, because we can claim to have made progress on so many fronts. I think perhaps one testament to this is that for September this year, we've recruited 5 forms of 22 boys and girls into our first year, and we're running a waiting list. And over at Trelisk at the prep school, they're doing a terrific job as well. And there are waiting lists in year 5 and year 6. And this comes about very powerfully, really simply by word of mouth. And so I wanted to thank all of our parents for their support and for the partnership that they give me and my SLT as we try and move the school forward. The capital development plans we've got are considerable. From September, 26 of our rising lower sixth will be the first cohort of young master chef wannabes as they join the Leith's Academy and take on the certificate in food and wine. Meanwhile, there are plans in place for the upper sixth to be prepped to cook great meals when they leave school, and also for our first to fifth year boys and girls to sign up for cooking activities. We're going to be launching that cookery school in September. So watch this space. Also, mums and dads, we're going to be running a Saturday morning program for family and friends. In fact, as well as a kind of pop-up Leiths of London, they're sending a chef down for a week of October half term. Next year, there's also an impressive list of other capital works that we've been budgeting for, including significant refurbishment of our classroom stock and science labs. I'm going to be working on this refreshed plan over the summer and look forward to gathering future ideas. It's that time of the year when we say goodbye to much-loved colleagues. I wanted to thank Matt Ricketts. Matt's been with us for a year as graduate assistant. He's a born schoolmaster, Matt, and he's inspired many of our boys and girls, and he leaves us now to begin his teacher training. Matt, you can come back anytime. My thanks also go to Amaral Robinson, our bursar, who's moved on to take a role with the Independent Schools Bursars Association. I wanted to thank Jocelyn Latache for being part of a wonderful team of librarians, and we wish Jocelyn well as she moves on. Also to Rebecca Wright. Rebecca was a founding member of the Library Dream Team, and she's helped to make the library such a well-used and welcoming hub. What a marvelous job. Thank you, Rebecca. Emily Hargreaves. Emily joined us 4 years ago as a geography graduate from Exeter University, and we supported her through her teacher training. She's developed into a first-rate teacher, and she's made such a massive contribution to Truro School over so many areas, and we wish her well. She's moving up to London to take up a post teaching geography at Haberdasher's Aske's School for Girls. Cliff Flowers retires this year from the DT department, where he's taught for the last 14 years. Under the leadership of the previous head of department, Tim Tall, Cliff brought design into the 21st century to complement the excellent workshop facilities that we had. He introduced CAD/CAM, as well as he built personally the department's ever first 3D printer. Much more than a teacher, however, Cliff is a great outdoor enthusiast and expedition leader, and he's overseen record numbers of pupils doing the DOV Bronze Award. He's been involved in trips all around the world, and indeed, Cliff is off to India this summer with a group of our students on a World Challenge expedition. Cliff, thank you for many, many years of dedicated service. In my speech day, Goodbyes, 4 years ago, I mentioned Mr. Hunt, who, although he wasn't retiring, was stepping back from the full-time role that he'd played in many capacities and in a wonderful career over well over 30 years. And I thanked him at the time, but I'd like to again express my thanks today for giving us 4 more years of part-time service, and I wish him everything of the best. Finally, what to say about Jane Rainbow? Where are you, Jane? Somewhere at the back, probably. There you go. Jane's been at Truro School for 28 years. It's really hard to overstate the significant and wonderful impact that Jane's had on so many students over so many years. And it was entirely normal, therefore, that at Jane's leaving celebration at Trellewarren on Wednesday evening, there were so many of her former pupils who came to say thank you. During my time here, Jane's been an inspirational teacher of history, leader of trips to Russia, co-head of sixth form, leader of our school's Amnesty International group, as well as looking after Model United Nations. Jane's also been a great help to me, stepping in and taking on significant areas of responsibility when required. But above all, I think it's the pastoral care that Jane's given our students day in and day out that really marks out her time here. As you can imagine, leading a community of sixth form students requires daily judgment. How much to leave to the students, when intervention might be required, when to take action, when to refrain from doing so. The resourcefulness and readiness for life of our sixth formers is a great testament to the love, care, and attention Jane has put into her job. Jane, I've been honoured to say a public farewell to several Truro School legends over my time, but you've just joined the honours board, so thank you. My final word is to our upper six leavers. I don't know if you've read much about the millennials, Generation Y, as they're known. This is the generational demographic defined as generally being born sometime between the early 80s and the early 2000s. So with that in mind, most of our upper six leavers who were born in 2000 will be at the tail end of that generational cohort known as the millennials. Now, if you believe what you read in the media, you guys, the millennials, are tough to manage. You're seen as entitled, self-interested, unfocused, lazy. You see, the argument goes that we, your teachers and your parents, have told you that you're special all of the time. We've told you that you can have anything you want when you want it. You just buy it on Amazon, or you kind of gorge it on Netflix. And we've been the ones giving you medals for, not for winning the race, but just for participating. So when you get out into the real world, your self-esteem crumbles because you realize that actually life isn't really like that. You're also addicted to social media and your cell phones and the kind of dopamine rush that you get when someone likes you, which means you're not very good at forming meaningful personal relationships because you spend too much time with your virtual friends. Well, if that's what millennials are like, then you guys are not. And when I look at our upper six leavers, I don't see entitled, unfocused, self-interested people wanting instant gratification. Actually, the opposite is true. I've watched you grow as young leaders in our sixth form. I've watched you wrestle with the dilemma of being a prefect when you've had to stand up for something you believed in or cared about, even if it made you unpopular. I've seen in overwhelming abundance the great relationships that you've built with your teachers, who've been your guides over the last couple of years and before that. You've celebrated each other's successes. You've realized the value of hard work. You've gone through and are going through the time-consuming and sometimes messy process of forming friendships, falling in and out with each other, some of you even falling in love with each other. So if what they say is true about the millennials, and I have my reservations, then you guys are cut from a different cloth. Our mission at Truro School is to produce confident, tolerant, enthusiastic young people who enjoy working with others and are ready to influence the world. And when I look at you, that's what I see. And I'm very grateful to the upper six leavers for all that they've done for the school, for taking advantage of the many opportunities they've been given. And you leave with our thanks and every possible good wish for the future. Thank you. I'm now going to ask Professor Sharon Cox to present our prizes, ably assisted by Mrs. Ellison and Dr. Pope, with Mr. Brewer in the wings. So do come forward.
Tutors in the first to third year working with the head of year award 2 prizes per form, one for effort and one for attainment. These are awarded for sustained overall attainment and commitment and effort in all subjects throughout the whole academic year. They are not solely based on the results of the end of year exams. Form prizes for effort for the first year are as follows. 1H, Luke James. 1J, Sam Hewitt. 1K, Harry Copeland. 1L, Anna English. And 1M, Lara Odling. Form prizes for the second year for effort are 2H, Charlotte Fortune, 2J, Kate Whiting, 2K, Hector Jessel, 2L, Thomas Sheriff, and 2M, Chloe Lansdowne. Form prizes for the third year are 3G, Jess Howard, 3H, Sammy Whiteleg, 3J, Katie Fear, 3K, William Picken White, 3L, Edward Ash, 3M, Thurston Blount, who is also awarded the Jeffreys Jones Shield for Perseverance in Outdoor Education. Moving on to the form prizes for attainment. In the first year, 1H, Lexi Craze, 1J, Libby Worrell, 1K, Ben Purchase, 1L, Amy Brown, and 1M, Jenna Teagle. Prizes in the second year for attainment go to 2H, Max Spivey, 2J, Madison Glinsky, 2K, Joanna Vivian, 2L, Salmir Sen, 2M, Emily Trendle. Prizes for attainment in the third year go to 3G, Lara Williams, 3H, Lulu Clayton, 3J, Ashay Divikar, 3K, Katie Martin, 3L, Ben Coston, and 3M, Kit Gordon-Brown. And moving on to subject prizes. Prizes for specific subjects are awarded from the fourth year upwards. They are awarded by heads of department for sustained attainment, commitment and effort and significant positive contribution to the department throughout the whole academic year. They are not solely based on the results of end-of-year exams. In the fourth year prizes, we have Art and English, Una Kincaid, Biology, Zoe May, Chemistry and Music, Alistair Sutton Freckleton, Computer Science, Sue Lynn, and Design and Technology and Physics, Jack Ovens. For drama, Charlotte Gordon-Brown. For French, Pia Genton. For geography and maths, Nila Kandasamy. For geology and German, Molly Machin. And for history, Monty Ricks. Education, Eleanor Powell. Religious Studies, Jenny Deuce. And for Spanish, Scarlett Hughes. Moving on to the fifth year subject prizes. For art, Ella Gould. For biology and French, Georgia Stone. For chemistry, Harrison Fraser. For computer science, Freya Hocking. And for design and technology, Emma Radford. For drama, Jessie Deverill. For English and German, and also the Junior Prize for Drama Acting, Maisie Vincent. For geography and maths, Abby Well. Geology, Daisy Boyce-Hunter. And history, Lewena Wern. For music, Jay Spicer. Physical education, Maddie Griffiths. Physics, Rufus Martin. Religious studies, Victoria Bradshaw. And Spanish, Emma Wrigley. Moving on to the lower six subject prizes. For art, Cherry Sin. For biology, Sophie Winnie. Business studies, Max Sampson. Chemistry and Spanish, Jordan Opie. Computer science, David Taylor. And product design, Matt Brunye. For economics, Oscar Pringle. English, Maya Fashikan. French, Charlotte Crump. Geography and psychology, Finn Burney. And geology, Ollie Brocklebank. For German, Ellie Holmes Bucknell. History and Religious Studies, Pedrick Venton. Maths and Physics, Mars Marr. Music, Chris Kung. Physical Education, Toby Hayward. And Theatre Studies, Edward Townsend. For art, Beth Well. For biology and the Symphony Orchestra Prize and Truman Shield for Outstanding Achievement, Katie Shaw. For business studies, Keris Pittman. For chemistry, Inga Bruce. Computer science, Joseph Tanzer. Product design, Luke Osborne. For economics and the joint winner of the Fanshawe Boarding Cup, Alex Sharbatian. For English, Lara Owen. For the extended project qualification, Nathan Holmes. For French, Jack Thornton. The Geography Subject Prize, Jazz Orchestra, and the Nichols Prize for Service to the School to Catherine Macquarie. And Geology, an Outstanding Service to School Sport, Amy Pryor. For German, Ajay Ravindranath. History, Bertie Holdsworth. Maths and the SHWay Music Cup, Alex Sells. Music, Elodie Lowry. And physical education, Savannah Snow. For physics, Jonathan Painter. For psychology, Martha Prindle. For religious studies, Sophie Upton. For Spanish and the Burrell Prize for Drama, Daisy Newborn-Munn. And for theatre studies and the Clay Prize for Theology, Millie Mitchell. Moving on to the school prizes, and these prizes are awarded to excellent ambassadors of Truro School that demonstrate great commitment and achievement. The Fanshawe Boarding Cup joint winner is Jess Jones. Information Technology, Byron Harty. Outstanding Service to School Sport, Michael Austin. The Richards Cup for Junior Hockey, Oliver Edwards. And Senior Choir Henry Doughty Music Cup, Lucy Wallace. For the junior choir boys, Sammy Ovenden Hope. Junior choir girls, Molly Shepherd. Wind band and the Ken Pelmere Music Cup, Sophie Pote. Junior band, Magnus Bushby. And junior orchestra, Robbie Headland. For the Jacobs Prize for Accompaniment, Cyrus Chan. The Creed Cup for Drama, Izzy Wilkinson. The Junior Prize for Drama Technical, Sam Kemp. Public Speaking, Oliver Thorpe. Debating, Chloe Dobbs. And the Westwood Chess Prize, Adam Hussein. The School Chess Prize, Alex Berger. The Jubilee Cup for Excellence in Design, Louis Pender. The Pritchard Trophy for Sustained Leadership in Outdoor Education, Harry Shengle-Bain. The Gold Duke of Edinburgh's Award for Upper Sixth Prefect, Amelia Luck. And Outdoor Education, Ollie Newman. The Bogear Charity Cup and Wilday Delange Prize for Sixth Form History, Sir Beth Stemon Taylor. The Rowe Award for Community Service, 1st to 5th year, Bimini Love. The London Former Pupils Association Prize for Service to the School, Alexander Boot. The C.L. Bryant Prize for Best Lower Sixth Scientist, Alessia Vardar. And the Cyril Wilkes Memorial Prize for Modern Languages, Molly Lee. And the Jane Emmons Library Prize, Gaia Deverell. The Lord Miners of Truro Cup for Grit goes to Rebecca Compton. The Day-Lewis Prize for Initiative and Enterprise to Mant Sinkins. And the Headmaster's Cup, Bonnie Bailey Skinner, and the Essequan Videri Shield, Oliver Andrews.
And now for the biggest prize of all, the OP Shield. This is given to the winning house after a series of whole school events, which includes music, the top house quiz, the maths challenge, sports day, swimming galas, commendations collected over the year, various other sporting events until the final scores are aggregated and can be announced. I wanted to pause before announcing the OP Shield to congratulate Wicket, who were clear winners of this year's sports day. We weren't able to announce that on Sports Day last week because we were still tallying up the winners of the tug of war competition. But the overall point score, this is I think the closest competition ever, with just 1 point after a whole year separating the top two houses. So in fourth place we have Wicket on 157. I'm afraid the Sports Day bid didn't quite get you there. Third place this year was Smith on 176.5. The runners-up on 186.5, Schoolhouse. Which means that this year's winners on one more point, 187.5, Winter. I'd like to ask Amy Pryor and Jonathan Painter to come out forward and hold the shield aloft. Well, that concludes our awards ceremony. I'd like to add my own very warm welcome to Professor Sharon Cox, who has managed to find it in her busy schedule to come all the way from Nagasaki in Japan to be with us today. Sharon was in the sixth form here, finishing in '92, and in fact she asked me about whether Mr. Blake, her biology teacher, was around, and I spotted him in the second row. But Sharon needs no introduction. You can read all about her in the bio and the back page of your speech day booklet. But it gives me great pleasure to ask Professor Sharon Cox to say a few words.
Thank you, Headmaster, for that introduction. It's a great honour and pleasure to be invited here today and to be part of this celebration of the end of the school year and in recognition of all your successes and hard work. This is a bit of a different experience for me because normally I'd be giving lectures and I'd have PowerPoint behind and a pointer and trying not to do death by PowerPoint. But today I've been asked to do something a little bit different, and to give a talk particularly directed at those of you who are leaving school this year and starting the next phase of your lives, whether that's by going to university, going travelling, volunteering, or even starting a job. This is quite a task, and the best I think I can do is just to tell you something about my life after leaving Truro School and what I think and I hope I've learnt from life so far. So I was not unusual in that I had a gap year before starting university, And I can now, even now, I can still say that the 9 months I spent in Zimbabwe teaching in a rural secondary boys' boarding school and the adventures I had in between and after remains one of the best, most exciting periods of my life. So the school was a very rural school, but it also took some girls as day girls, and a couple of times I was invited to return to their homes with these girls. And this was a really eye-opening experience, because school finished at 5 o'clock 3 days a week, having started at 7 a.m. So with these girls, we then ran 2 hours through the bush to get back to their homes. There's no roads, no paths, through the bush. And when they got home, they had jobs to do, water to fetch, cooking to do. And that was before they had their 2 hours, 2 hours of homework to start, which they had to do by the flickering light of an oil lamp. So it's a small wonder that the girls struggled compared to the boys, who had nothing to do except get to the dining hall, eat, and then do their homework by electric light. And these experiences really made me appreciate the lengths that so many others and their families go to get an education, how desperate they are to learn. And this reminded me of how lucky and privileged I was. It also gave me some of my first teaching challenges. How to teach O-level genetics, natural selection, and evolution to adolescents who had a completely different worldview and different concepts underlying their understanding of the natural world. So they thought I was completely nuts when I asked them to pretend to be groups of antelopes and zebras and some to be lions and ask, okay, which antelopes are you going to eat? Which are going to survive to have babies? But although they thought I was mad, I think it worked, eventually. From Zimbabwe, I then went to university in central London, and this was something of a culture shock for a Cornish farm girl. Despite the fact that I travelled, and in those days that meant hitchhiking, across half of South and Eastern Africa, often on my own, I felt isolated and in alien territory. However, after a while, I found my groove and I started fencing, something I'd always wanted to do, but at that stage was not actually available at Truro School. How things change. And so I rapidly took up sabre as my weapon of choice, and I started training at a club that was run by the men's national coach, Peter Frolick. And this was also where the majority of the men's national team trained, so I was extremely lucky. At that time, there were very few women fencing sabre and no competitions for women's sabre. I was a little disappointed by university at this stage. After the excitement and challenge of my experiences in Africa, it all felt a little bit tame. However, fencing gave me a sense of identity and purpose. I was the only woman in the club, and although I had to rapidly develop a pretty thick skin, everyone really wanted to see me do well. I was made to do my share of refereeing, even when I really did not know what I was doing, and I got shouted at quite a lot. But some things you can only learn by doing, and only learn by doing at the sharp end. And later, being asked to referee open competitions or open fights in men's competitions, this gave me an enormous sense of pride and confidence in what I had achieved. By my final year at UCL, I knew that I wanted to do academic research as my career, but I had discovered that laboratory-based research was really not my thing. And besides, I wanted to get back to Africa and to research that was closer to having an impact on the people that lived there. The topics I had enjoyed most were immunology, nutritional biochemistry, and infectious diseases. And so this naturally led to me wanting to study at the nearby London School of Hygiene and Tropical Medicine. And so I turned down a PhD offer at UCL, and after much deliberating, I did the Masters in Public Health Nutrition. That year was intense, but so much fun with great people and a fantastic, stimulating, multicultural environment. I continued to fence during my Masters, and I was very fortunate that the school welfare officer took pity on me and made out that I was a hardship case. Because if I attended to compete in the Commonwealth Games in Kuala Lumpur, I could not afford to pay my rent or eat. And so I got hardship support from the university on that basis. At that time, fencing was a very low priority for Sport England, and we received no financial support. We even had to pay for our own England tracksuits. This was the first time that there'd been women's sabre at the Commonwealths, and although, unfortunately, I was knocked out of the individual medals by my teammate, we did go on to win the team gold, and was an experience I'll never forget. After my Masters, I started my PhD research, also at LSHTM, and this took me to Ghana, in West Africa. And there I spent 18 months living in a small rural town in central Ghana, where I also learned to ride a motorbike, so that then I could take the shortcut 20-kilometer dirt road route from the hospital where my study women were to my research lab, which was in another town. And my experiences in Ghana taught me a lot, including persistence and resilience in the face of many obstacles. In this case, one of the largest ones was importing my laboratory equipment, and also repeatedly being dismissed as small girl by those in authority. Oh, and being arrested on the Ghana border on Christmas Eve one year. But that's another story. The women and families that I met and the time spent visiting these women in their own homes was an honor and a special experience. Interestingly, even in the year 2000, about 5 of my 120 newly married and pregnant women had husbands who had left for Libya or beyond seeking work. Unfortunately, I also attended 2 funerals from my study women during this time who had died during or after childbirth. This just highlights the risks that these women faced delivering, mostly at home or in very basic facilities. However, I'm very glad to report that maternal mortality rates have more than halved in Ghana since that time, and malaria in pregnancy in that area is now almost unheard of. After my PhD, I remained at LSHTM, and I spent time in the Gambia, in a rural research station in Kenneba on the river. And while I was there, we collaborated with researchers from Houston, Texas, and this included a real-life astronaut. And so we asked him to come and give a talk about his experiences of going into space. He'd completed 4 Challenger shuttle missions. And to give this talk to all of our field workers, many of whom have never completed school beyond sort of 11, 12 years. Until recently, the Gambia didn't have any university of any kind. So very few had completed school. And almost no one in that talk even knew that humans had been into space. And so seeing their faces, their disbelieving faces, and wonder at seeing their own country, and more specifically, Kenneba, from space, because the bend in the river is very distinctive, was priceless. However, predictably, before long, questions came back to what everyone really wants to know. How do you poo in space? And the answer was, in brief, because it took about half an hour of many questions and explaining, but with care. You really don't want to get it wrong. So after the Gambia, I then moved to Tanzania and started new research with my first research grant from the Wellcome Trust that was awarded to me personally. And sickle cell disease is a genetic disease that causes severe anemia and many other serious life-threatening problems. And until recently, most children would have died in early childhood without it ever being diagnosed. And so it was just not recognized how common it really is. And so because many of these children are also malnourished, we applied for another research fund, also from the Wellcome Trust, to do a clinical trial of a ready-to-use supplementary food, and we tested different versions of this containing different concentrations of particular amino acids that I hypothesized were deficient in sickle cell and were underlying some of the disease pathophysiology. And unlike the clinical trial that formed the basis of my PhD, this one actually had positive results. And so, although it needs further testing, hopefully this is an intervention that is affordable, cheap, and safe, and that, although it's in no way a cure, will help to improve the growth of these children and reduce the severity of some of their symptoms. So after this, I decided that it was time to leave Tanzania. And there was an opportunity to go to Japan and be seconded to a new school of global tropical medicine and global health. And so I took that opportunity. And although you might think that the challenges of cross-collaboration and culture shock in Japan would be huge, in fact, 7 years of working as pretty much the only foreigner in the National Medical University in Tanzania was actually pretty good preparation. Thus, so what can I tell you? What do I think I may have learnt so far? I can say that travel and living and working in different cultures, I think, has helped me to improve my teaching, but also my science. It's helped me to see things from different perspectives and to more easily think outside of the box. Unfortunately, science is not as objective or black and white as we might like to think, but is colored, like everything, by our preconceptions and our cultural background. Another thing I think I'd like to pass on is that I think it's really good to have a goal in life, but not to the extent that you're blinded to new opportunities when they present themselves, and to do what makes you happy and gives you a sense of personal satisfaction. And then also I would say, try to be better than me at learning languages. But if you are like me, hopeless, don't let it put you off from going to places where people don't speak English. It's amazing how much people can understand each other. And don't be scared to make a fool of yourself, because I am an ace at give us a clue and Pictionary. So finally, all I'd like to say to everybody here, everybody leaving school and continuing, work hard, play hard, and never stop learning. Thank you very much.
Sharon, thank you very much indeed. Before I invite our head boy to propose a vote of thanks, there's going to be a short musical interlude, and our girl choristers are going to sing Lift Thine Eyes by Mendelssohn. Absolutely lovely. Thank you. I'd now like to ask Oliver Andrews, our head boy, to propose a vote of thanks before giving some of his own reminiscences. Ollie.
So just a quick thanks, really. And I think on behalf of everyone here, Professor Cox, we'd like to thank you for your truly amazing speech. It was very entertaining. I would like to hear the story of you being arrested, but I suppose, as you said, that is for another time. So on behalf of everyone here, we have a small token of our appreciation. So thank you very much. I've spent a lot of time thinking about what sort of speech I'll write today. Should it be a funny one or a serious one? I just wasn't sure. So I thought I should ask my dad for some advice. Yeah. And he told me this. If you're going to make a funny speech, then you must always remember to wait for the audience to finish laughing before continuing. But don't worry, he said, you won't have to wait very long, because that's right, because you're not funny. And to complete this classic dad humour, he then spent the next 10 minutes laughing at his own joke. So thanks, Dad. In all honesty, a 5-minute speech is not long enough to accurately recall the 7 years many of us have spent at Truro School. There are so many memories to wade through, some spanning back to the first year when many of the guys thought a Justin Bieber hairstyle was the pinnacle of style, or to more recent times when return trips from countless rugby games have shown beyond a doubt that the song Country Roads by John Denver is the only song you can sing to pass the time. And of course that Matt Ellis has a minor obsession with the Wurzels, as any farmer should. In addition to this, the speech will also have to cover the shout-outs that I've been asked to do, and boy, have there been a lot. Anything from the likes of Keris and Lowy, who were adamant our lunchtime games of Ludo were... Sorry, I've got lost again. Which our lunchtime games of Ludo had to be included because it was the best way to spend your lunchtimes, which I must admit they were. To my PE, history and psychology classes who, and I quote, "You just have to include us." And finally, I think any eldest sibling will sympathise with this. A shout out to my sisters, Erin and Lauren, if for no other reason than being my sisters, and maybe to embarrass them a little bit. So if you happen to see two people turn bright red, I think you will have spotted them. Truro School has offered me and so many others so much over the 7 years I've been at the school, with the chances to play sport, opportunities to learn, and creating lasting friendships when it's needed, a place to relax which most recently came into the form of the excellent sixth form cafe. The cafe is always striving to include new and tasty food. They also managed to answer an age-old question of who ate all the pies. But as part of my oath as head boy, I'll have to keep his name a secret. Don't worry, Tom. Leaving Truro School will personally be quite hard for me, and in all honesty, I don't want to go. However, I know that the school has readied all of us for the next steps in our lives. I can truthfully say I've enjoyed all my time here, coming in every school day and being able to laugh, learn and mess around on a rugby pitch. It just made these years fly by. And standing at the end of it all has made me realise how much we've all grown up and changed for the better. I think we can recognise how the school has guided and helped us to be more rounded and confident individuals, and how we've progressed as people. The people to thank for this, of course, are the teachers here, for helping us and guiding us on our journey, and for also being able to share a joke with. I wholeheartedly thank you for all making Truro School what it is, and for all the help and laughter you have brought with us. And now to end this speech. Funnily enough, I find myself looking to the past for ideas as we ready ourselves for the future, and memories of assemblies from my lower years came to mind when our previous headmaster was at the helm. Mr. Smith was a big fan of quotes, so I thought, why not follow in similar fashion? A quote from Sir Winston Churchill seemed most appropriate at this time. Now, this is not the end. It is not even the beginning of the end, but it is, perhaps, the end of the beginning. So now for one last thank you, perhaps the most important one of them all. Thank you, Truro School. Thank you to the school that owes you nothing, but offers you everything. Thank you.
Ladies and gentlemen, thank you so much for joining us on our 2018 Speech Day. Like Ollie, there were many things I wanted to say here today, but I had to think to myself, what can I talk about for just under 5 minutes without sending you to sleep? Because I know everyone's got that numb feeling in their hands still. But what did I need to hear when I was sat in the audience? What could I have been told that would have helped me through the year to the next speech day? And for that would be the lesson of resilience for me. Resilience isn't about pushing someone out in a boat with no oars. It's about showing them the ropes so they can learn to do it on their own. When you're going through the toughest times, you have to support yourself with the people that want you to be the best that you can be, and I truly think I found those people at Truro School. I saw this mostly through the dreaded UCAS process. After applying for my 4 universities, I never expected every single one to come back with an interview. But when it came to April and I only had 1 interview and 3 rejections, it hit me things weren't quite going to plan. Once I admitted to Miss Jupp and Mrs. Rainbow that I was struggling, we had a good cop, bad cop moment where Miss Jupp provided tissues, digestives, and gallons of tea, and Mrs. Rainbow proceeded to slap me with the reality that I kind of needed A-levels even without an offer. And I'm sadly no Lord Minor, so I heard an amazing quote from Churchill that if you're going through hell, keep going, which means that there is light at the end of the tunnel, and don't be afraid to accept help from those around you. I would like to take a moment out to say that you may or not, well, you will already know now that Mrs. Rainbow will be leaving us this year, and I'd like to personally thank her for everything she did for me this year, and also on behalf of every person in the sixth form, because without her, I think we would have fallen apart. The list of her contributions to the school is endless, and whoever is to follow her, you've got some big shoes to fill, and I think she deserves another round of applause for her service. In an extreme contrast to our daily school experience, a lucky few of us became students of Bethany High, which is the best high school in Uganda, for 1 night only. The students there gave the Rev his Ugandan name, which is Nduku, which he says means tree, but that's not what they told me. They wake up 4:30 in the morning to a bread bun and eat exactly the same meal, posho and beans, for lunch and dinner every single day, and we complained when the salt packets got taken away. It was an experience that showed me how much we really need to appreciate what we have here, because it's something special. Another trait here I see is the celebration of individuality. I joined Truro School in the 4th year and had been to another 4 schools before that. In fact, my parents used to say that once everyone started to know them by first name basis, then it was time to move to the next school. But I've learned that no other school accepts individuals like we do here. Before joining, I had a passion for singing, and 2 weeks into my first year, Mr. Palmer ambushed me into a chapel concert. My parents were sat with their program giggling to themselves as they read out the order of composers, and I'd like to read it to you now. Bach, Schoenberg, Mozart, Beethoven, Vivaldi, Debussy, Beyoncé. But that's exactly what I'm talking about. My style was embraced and celebrated and encouraged all the way until this leavers service where I got to sing with Billy and watched all my friends fall apart in front of me, and I barely held it together myself. You don't have to be afraid to show your character in fear of it being stamped out, because, as Mr. Gordon Brown said, we all have respect for one another, and you should treat others how you'd like to be treated, because respect is earned, and you've got to keep those positive people around you. And don't be afraid to cut out the negative, because once you do, doors start to open. The teachers have a magical way of finding your strengths that aren't necessarily the most obvious, and they build on them until you flourish into the outstanding students that you see before you today who are our leavers. So in summary, I would like to thank everyone in this hall for creating a community of unique, ambitious people. Thank you to my incredible teachers for pushing me through to the last few weeks of exams, and credit to ITV for a bit of Love Island every night to get me through. But lastly, thank you to my fellow sixth formers and the students here for accepting me as your head girl this year, because I've absolutely loved it, and I wish everyone all the success in the future. Thank you for listening, and football's coming home.
I just want to add my own thanks to Ollie and to Bonnie, but also to our deputy head boy and deputy head girl this year, Bertie Holdsworth and Kathy Macquarie. They've been terrific company to me over the course of the year during our weekly breakfasts. It's always a great pleasure. One of the finest things of my job is interviewing and selecting boys and girls to be senior prefects and indeed head prefects. And as Bonnie and Ollie and co make way for our new leaders this year, for next year, I'd like to tell you who those people are. So after quite a lot of deliberation and soul searching, I'm very pleased to announce that next year's head boy will be Finn Burney, next year's head girl Joanna Pawley, and they're going to be assisted. Their two deputies will be Mars Ma as deputy head boy and Millie MacDonald as our deputy head girl. And I know Mars is in fact back in mainland China already, but I'd like the other three to stand, please, and receive a round of applause. Congratulations. So, as we come to an end, before our final hymn and the final benediction from the Rev, could I remind you that there is a retiring collection this year, which is in aid of the Invictus Trust, which does amazing work on mental health issues. And I'm going to now, that you'll find the words to the hymn on page 2 of your program. But if I could ask you to stand and sing.
bless you and keep you. The Lord make his face to shine upon you and be gracious to you. The Lord lift up his countenance upon you and give you his peace. Amen. After the platform party have left, please could you be seated and enjoy the musical interlude.
We should also say that refreshments and cocktail pasties will be served in the old sports hall immediately afterwards, so do come along and join that. Thank you.
Some interesting words and thoughts. Many congratulations to the prize winners and special thanks to our guest speaker, Professor Sharon Cox. More live events coming soon from Truro School Live, but for now, from me, Sarah Ellis, and all at Truro School, have a relaxing and peaceful summer.